Hi, Bother Brigade. Here's what's bothering me today. Let me see if I got this straight, right? The trucker convoy that decided to go to the city of Ottawa and make a big stink about and the vaccine mandates, and we're actually heroes, and it's about freedom and, you know, standing up against tyranny and for what's right, and it's anti-constitutional what Trudeau's trying to do, and all the terrible, blatantly untrue stuff, right? So let's see. I wonder how things are going so far in the nation's capital. Well, as trucks started to roll in, people pointed out that on Elgin Street, there was a truck that was flying both the Canadian and the Confederate flag. And in case you're wondering, that wasn't the only Confederate flag. There was also this beauty spotted on Parliament Hill, featuring a semi-truck on the face of it. But sadly, as I'm sure many people have seen and heard, that wasn't the worst flag to be seen on Parliament Hill. Here are some, quote, very fine people waving fuck Trudeau flags and also a Nazi flag. Nice. And you know, their freedom was so infringed upon, which is why they were allowed to move freely to another part of the area where you can still see them here. So, you know, that kind of tells us that they weren't exactly asked to leave. But again, that wasn't the only swastika that people spotted. For example, there was the revelation that Conservative Member of Parliament Michael Cooper supporting the anti-vax convoy being interviewed in front of a swastika. Just a normal, peaceful protest. Yeah, great stuff here, right? Now, in defense of this Conservative MP, and geez, that's a phrase I almost never say, he did issue an apology, like an actual, like, written apology saying, oh, if only I had known, then, you know, I never would have, done the interview and, like, would have distanced myself totally, which, I mean, on the one hand, good, but come on, dude. Like, look around at the people and at what we've been seeing on social media leading up to this. Really, you're shocked and disappointed that this is something that happened? This sign where people were calling to assassin Trudeau, where the S's are made of the Nazi Schutzstaffel, were on Parliament Hill. Signs like this were not uncommon according to people who were there, and as we can see with just clear photo evidence. And then the other thing that happened, well, among many other things, but something that happened that garnered the attention of a lot of people in equal measure was this, where protesters decided to deface the statue of Terry Fox, a national hero, an icon, giving him a hat, looks like it's a Team Canada hat, draping him in the Canada flag, and also flying the Canadian flag upside down and making him hold a sign saying mandate freedom. Which, you know, we're going to come back to that in a hot second and what Terry Fox's actual views would have likely been given his actual life story. But stunning ignorance from this group of people is sadly not surprising to me. However, as someone so, you know, generously pointed out online, because parking trucks on the War Memorial wasn't enough of a dick move, how about defacing the statue of Canada's most beloved figure who died fighting cancer? Cancer patients are at higher risk of infection and death, but sure, he would totally be anti-vax and anti-mask. Yeah, right? And again, we're going to come back to that a bit later, but also, oh, right, yeah, I kind of forgot to mention that these same chucklefucks parked on the National War Memorial. Some were even so audacious as to park on the stairs leading up to the tomb of the unknown soldier. And again, folks, it unfortunately just gets worse from here. Not only was, you know, parking bad enough, right? And sure, since then, apparently they have moved the vehicles. Oh, sorry, we didn't know. Sure you didn't. But they have moved the vehicles, but that didn't stop the following from happening. After explaining to these less than fine Canadians of the hallowed grounds upon which they trode, this was their reaction in the name of freedom. Unsat, which I'm assuming is short for unsatisfactory, which I mean, yeah, it is, but isn't that just so insane? Talking about, yeah, freedom, and you know, we gotta support veterans, and this is against tyranny. Meanwhile, someone is literally dancing on top of the tomb of the unknown soldier. What the actual fuck is wrong with you? But again, it just gets worse, right? So this is all happening in the absolute core of downtown, which is basically shut down still until Monday, apparently. And there's also the fact that, you know, it's a lot of government offices, so they're not going to be open on like a weekend anyway. And so these people are complaining about stuff not being open. They apparently went to a nearby mall without masks, of course, forcing a lot of the shops to close early. Yeah, you clearly care about small business and business interests and getting the economy back, that you're literally forcing businesses to close. Yeah, real smart, 400 IQ 4D chess shit you got going on here, people. But again, it gets worse. Apparently, there is a homeless shelter or charity in Ottawa known as the Shepherds of Good Hope. I think they run both a homeless shelter and a soup kitchen. And the latter is what we unfortunately need to talk about in the wake of this asshole convoy rolling into Ottawa. Hi everyone, thanks for bringing this to our attention. Earlier today, our staff and volunteers experienced harassment from convoy protesters seeking meals from our soup kitchen. The individuals were given meals to defuse the conflict. Management was then informed of the issue and no further meals were given to protesters. Our soup kitchen is committed to providing meals to people experiencing and at risk of homelessness in Ottawa. This weekend's events have caused significant strain to our operations at an already difficult time. So, yeah, again, trucker convoy full of real fine people. We should totally be supporting these people. They're very much against, communism and authoritarianism and all this stuff, which, as some people rather funnily pointed out, wait, the convoy protesters wanted free socialist soup? Cream of irony. Right, oh my god, this is all so stupid and shameful and disgusting on the part of these jackasses currently occupying the downtown of our nation's capital. And unfortunately, it still kind of gets really worse from here, right? But before we do that, I do want to make mention that this homeless shelter or soup kitchen or both, Shepherds of Good Hope, I'm going to see if I can try and find a link so that people can donate and support them in whatever way they can down below, because they're there to support the critically at-risk homeless and at-risk population, not jackasses feeling entitled to a free meal. But they're all about individualism and bootstraps, right? And they had so much support and people really supporting the convoy, which is why they had to bully and harass a soup kitchen for free food. But unfortunately, that's not the only harassment they committed downtown.
We've come here to help get rid of people like you from your tyrannical shit. You're a bully and you're so pathetic in life. What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do?
What can I do?
Okay? Okay, you are so pathetic in life that you have nothing better to do than to enforce mass shit. You know that? Yeah, so that makes me feel good about yourself. And that's it's sickening. It's disgusting. So now you're gonna kick us outside in -30. You will answer to God. Yes, you will. And he will send you straight to fucking hell.
This happened at a friend's workplace an hour ago, here in Ottawa. Guy then came back in and physically assaulted the hotel owner. Fuck anti-maskers and fuck this convoy. Now, unfortunately, there's very little context there, probably, just to throw it out there, Occam's razor, right? They probably were thinking, oh yeah, well, we need a place to warm up, or, people need a place to stay, because they can't just stay in their vehicles all the time, because it is winter, it is cold. And so they're probably thinking of, hey, can we get a reservation, right? Or can we at least warm up in the lobby? And they probably said, yeah, okay, but that requires, masks and stuff. And they said, how dare you threaten our freedom? And it resulted in this. That's a very likely explanation for what's happening. And that also would explain why various other stores in downtown Ottawa decided to close to, not deal with the harassment and abuse from these terrible people in the Flu Trucks clan. But now we unfortunately have the disgusting cherries on top to the situation, and again, the weekend isn't even over yet, so who knows how worse this gets by Monday. Reports from the paramedic community stating that a very survivable trauma code died due to convoyers' refusal to move for an ambulance on the way to the trauma center. What should have been a 10-minute drive and a fully survivable injury took 45 minutes and died as they arrived. Trucks and support vehicles obstructed another ambulance with someone on a cath lab bypass, deliberately moving into the carpool lane to cut them off. But yeah, these are heroes, right? Standing up for freedom and against tyranny. And they totally actually really like, small businesses and frontline workers and essential workers. That's why they really want to get back to normal, which is why they're obscuring paramedics and ambulances, including, as the latter case shows, deliberately. There is, however, an update to this story. The Ottawa paramedic confirmed to CTV Ottawa that reports a person died due to a delayed response time caused by the protest is false. They did say protesters threw rocks at an ambulance Saturday on the 417 and racially abused the driver. Another incident of rock throwing occurred on St. Laurent Boulevard. That vehicle was heading downtown. None of the EMS personnel were injured in the incidents. And someone else confirmed it, saying new. Rocks were hurled at an Ottawa ambulance and racial slurs at the paramedic from a truck that was part of the protest convoy, says Ottawa Paramedic Service spokesperson. Paramedics working downtown asked for police escorts because they didn't feel safe. And so now we just kind of have a grim summation of the situation from people in Ottawa. There's people shitting in snowbanks and sidewalks, taking food from the Shepherds of Good Hope soup kitchen for the homeless, Nazi flags waving around, Confederate flags, question marks, business owners being bullied and threatened to be forced to serve them for free or else, people harassing others for wearing a mask, monuments being defaced, the unknown soldier was literally turned into a dance floor with people chugging beer on it. The horns have gone on apparently for upwards of 30 hours straight. People's pets are becoming traumatized as a result. I left Alberta for a reason. I don't need it coming back. And another person just kind of saying a lot of the same things, but also pointing out how silly it is that they would deface the Terry Fox Memorial, has the following very astute summation of the whole thing as well. Using Terry Fox as a symbol for an anti-vax rally, a man who fought against disease and was immune compromised himself because of it. Dancing on the grave of the unknown soldier, the literal icon of fucking sacrifice we have in this country. Drawing swastikas on the Canadian flag and flying them in your protest. Driving people insane with your honking so you don't have to take social responsibility and wear a mask or get vaccinated. Disgusting. I am deeply ashamed to be Canadian today, living in the same country as people who refuse to care for those around them. Where were you assholes when real injustice was happening? Yesterday's events have shown some of the true colors of this country, and surprise, surprise, they're deeply privileged, racist, anti-Semitism, and anti-science. And yeah, that's pretty much the grim and unfortunate summation of what's happening in the absolute central core of our nation's capital right now. The Freedom Convoy, or the Truckers for Freedom, the Flu Trucks Clan, whatever you want to call these absolute jackasses, shitheads, douche canoes, whatever term you want to use for them is likely to be accurate, except for anything involving heroes or freedom, as we've seen how they've behaved, which is, worse than any possible previous protest, right? Canada Day in Ottawa is jam-packed because it's the nation's capital, so that's like the biggest thing that happens there. It's jam-packed, and you don't hear of nearly the same kind of crap that's going on. And already, right, there's definitely people in the Flu Trucks clan saying things like, oh, well, anything bad that happens is clearly Antifa actors trying to take away. Yeah, sure, that's why there's people flying all the Canadian flags and people with swastikas and various other terrible Confederate flags not being asked to leave because, oh, well, I may disagree, but that's freedom. Isn't there that quote about, if you sit down at a table with 5 Nazis and they talk about being Nazis and you don't get up to leave, then there's actually like 6 Nazis sitting at that table? I think the Germans have a saying about that or something. And unfortunately, right, all that talk of, oh, well, anything I don't like is Antifa or it's communist actors or they're clearly trying to delegitimize the protest. Y'all have done a fantastic fucking job of doing that yourselves. This is not, Antifa. You want to know why? Because Antifa doesn't exist in the city of Ottawa, at least not in the way you think. I can't even recall the last time I heard about some kind of terrible riot with like buildings on fire and like dumpsters being lit on fire in the street and tire fires and just, absolute chaos and violence run amok. Cause like, I just can't seem to recall any protests that have been that bad. I can remember, Montreal protests about playoff hockey. Same with Vancouver. Ottawa, none of that really comes to mind because the massive amount of liberals in that city, the massive police presence because it's the nation's capital, and the fact that in general, right, like it's a very middle class, waspy city, and most protests are just like, whether it's right or left wing protests, generally, okay, couple hundred, a couple thousand people show up, walk around, they leave. You don't really hear much beyond that, aside from maybe 1 or 2 instances of either like vandalism or a terrible flag being seen somewhere. This is easily the most egregious shit I have seen and heard from any protest in Ottawa, and that is saying something. So no, it's not Antifa. It's just these people, these absolute scumfuck people who are to blame for all the bad news coming out of this. All those terrible, awful fascist signs, all the terrible Confederate flags, all the terribleness coming out of this, and the harassment and bullying soup kitchens and deliberately blocking paramedics and defacing national monuments and statues. This is the work of the heroes of the Flu Trucks Clan, the Freedom Convoy, as they negatively impact the freedom of the people of Ottawa, especially in the downtown area. Yeah, such wonderful people. Absolutely not. Fuck off. And the fact that there's anyone supporting these jackasses is definitely what's bothering me today.